Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. It's been a long day. We were on a road trip today, so if we're a little loose here and there, that might be why. Anyway, welcome, everyone, and I will call our meeting to order and ask council to rise while I repeat our commitment. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all, and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you. So our first item is approval of our agenda, moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of November 28th, 2018 be approved as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, either now or at the time the item comes forward. Number 5 is adoption of minutes not already confirmed. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor LaRose, that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Council, November 14th, 2018. Committee of the Whole, November 14th, 2018. Special Committee of the Whole, November 14th, 2018. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Our next item is council information package of November 21st, 2018. Are there any items that anyone wanted pulled at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to our, excuse me, I think the clerk is...
Sorry for the interruption. That should actually have a motion attached to it. Doesn't sound like you have a motion sheet in front of you, but it's just to be received for information.
I do. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the following council information package having been given due consideration November 21st, 2018. Any issues? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Now we will move on to our consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Midland Penetanguishene Transit Ridership Monthly Update and Heritage Committee Minutes of September 13th, 2018. Are there any issues that anyone would like to? I just might comment on our transit ridership. Very good, almost 2,400 people for 1 month of activity. That's great. Very good. No further comments. All those in favor? Carried. Matters for consideration, verbal update, Main Street reconstruction. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Since the last council update, we've seen some final finishing touches being completed on the Main Street. As you'll note, on the Main Street, we have a couple of setups on the boulevards as our contractor, JB Enterprises, completes the coping for some of the seating walls and seating benches. And in order to do that, they need to tarp it off and add heat while they're doing that work. It represents the bulk of the work remaining on the project. The contractor has made a submission for substantial completion of the project, which our consultants at Greenland Engineering are reviewing as we speak. And as it stands right now, once we get the Seating benches and walls completed. We'll be wrapping up the project for the season. We do, however, continue to press our contractor, and they in turn continue to try to get the temporary lines down. However, the weather we're getting these days is certainly hampering that, but we're going to make every effort to ensure those get down.
Thank you, Brian. Are there comments? Yes, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, I can't tell you how pleased as one councillor I am with the way the whole project has gone. I think you and your people and the JB people have done a wonderful job. One suggestion I have for the remaining items, I appreciate you're not going to be able to likely get the line painting done, maybe even before spring. But how quickly are you going to get the overhead signs that demonstrate the lanes? Because I've been down at the intersection here where two people have come side by side, and both of them headed down the road. And I think it was just a matter there was no sign. Somebody didn't know what the expectation was. So I don't know if that's something that you could set as a bit of a priority so that we avoid any accidents.
Absolutely, through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Saunders, that is something that we're looking into right now in lieu of the line painting, or if in the event we can't get the line painting down, to get some overhead signage as was there before to help with the delineation of traffic through those intersections, because some of them have changed a little bit from what was there before, so we're definitely looking into that, getting that done.
Brian, one thing that I was interested in, it seems to me that when we put the contract together, there was a clause about a bonus if they finished on time, or if there was a delay, there was a cost. Could you explain that? I've kind of forgotten exactly how that unfolded.
Absolutely. As council, some of council will recall, at the time of the award of the contract, we selected the one-year option of the contract. We had an option between a 2-year and a 1-year contract. We selected the one-year option of the contract with the bonus/penalty provision, which is $6,000 per day bonus for each working day. The project is completed before the substantial completion date, and subsequently, or conversely to that, there's a $6,000 a day penalty clause for each working day after the substantial completion deadline.
So are there any issues in reference to the weather that has come about? I mean, they're still, I would imagine, pretty complete, but
in terms of the substantial completion, and the contractor has made their request for substantial completion, then there's a number of tests to that under the contract that the contractor has to meet in order to have the project deemed substantially completed, which are all laid out in the contract documentation, and our consultant is looking at that right now to ensure that all of those tests have been met and substantial completion can be granted.
very good, thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will move to 8B. Moved by Councillor Louder, seconded by Councillor Levy, that Council of the Town of Penetanguishene endorse for approval the proposed modifications to the new official plan dated November 2018 in accordance with staff report PD 1871. Councillor Levy?
There are some minor modifications made since we put this forward in June, I believe it was, and I will have Andrea Betty address those.
Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, and to Council. So this represents another milestone in our new official plan process. You'll recall we did adopt a new official plan in June of 2018, and as the County of Simcoe is our approval authority, the document was forwarded to them and this summer, and on August 3rd they deemed the record complete, meaning they had all the information they needed to review the document and make a decision on the official plan. So they've been undergoing their review. They have 210 days from the August 3rd deadline to make that decision under the Planning Act. And on October 15th of this year, we did receive their proposed modifications to the policies of the document as well as the land use schedules. So we met with the County of Simcoe staff and reviewed and refined them where we could, and then subsequently held a meeting with the Official Plan Steering Committee on November 15th to review those modifications. Within the staff report, we've identified the majority of the work. I would say that the comments were mostly language and formatting issues, nothing really significant in terms of policy changes or changes to the mapping. So we felt that they were fairly inconsequential and felt that they could come forward to council who have been approving this document and been part of the process for the past 2.5 years. So that's why you're seeing it tonight at council. So the major changes, I think, as I noted, there are no major changes with respect to the document. There were some minor changes, and I'll just highlight the two that have been discussed by the Official Plan Steering Committee. The one impacts have to do with the permissions for new livestock uses within the rural lands of the municipality. So this would not restrict people who have small hobby farms or who have agricultural practices such as crops and so forth. What it deals with is the potential for new barns and new manure storages within the municipality. And in discussions with the County of Simcoe, they felt that should we want to include those types of land uses in our municipality, it was kind of different than most settlement areas such as Penetanguishene wouldn't typically have livestock uses within their municipality. And secondly, that it could also interfere and hinder our growth within those rural lands in the future. So they had suggested we may want to take a look at that. So we did sit down with the steering committee and talk about our farming practices in our municipality, and recognizing that we do have some, for the most part, they're small scale, and that the changes to the document with respect to barns and manure storages would only be triggered when it actually becomes such that you need some sort of approval from the or the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs with respect to nutrient management plans and so forth. So for those reasons, the steering committee recommended that we recognize the existing livestock operations in the municipality, but we would not permit any new livestock facilities from locating in the town of Penetanguishene. This is also consistent with what a number of other settlement areas, such as the town of Collingwood and such, have done in the municipality. So that was one of the directions we received on November 15th from the steering committee. The second requested change from the County of Simcoe is one that we've talked about several times in this room, have to do with the expansion of some of our employment lands on the east side of Fuller Avenue. If you'll recall, our employment industrial lands on the west side of Fuller Avenue, the Laurier, Centennial Drive, those areas, and then on the south part of Robert Street East between Thompson Road and Fuller Avenue. Those have been identified as being employment lands for a number of years. However, our natural heritage study also identified that those are potentially constrained lands, that they may have some significant natural features on them that were outside of the scope of our natural heritage study. So in discussions with the steering committee, we felt that it was prudent of the municipality to ensure that we have a sufficient supply of employment lands and therefore designate lands on the east side of Fuller Avenue. We had done all this work and made these decisions, and then the growth plan update came out in 2017, which changed the scale and scope of which the municipality could consider changes to our rural lands. And it's actually a specific policy in the growth plan that says the municipality cannot redesignate lands that are currently designated rural until the county goes through their municipal comprehensive review project. And so while we're sort of waiting the county to launch that, we've taken a look at the growth plan, and it's very clear in the growth plan. It says you have to take all policies in a whole view, not a specific policy, and apply it that way. And so for those reasons, we felt it's important for our municipality to ensure we have a sufficient supply of employment lands that makes sense for our municipality. And if you'll know the area itself, this specific land is very, very small. It's a minor addition. It's not 200 acres of employment lands that may be of provincial or county interest. It's quite small scale land, and it's surrounded by, or backs onto a licensed pit area. So in terms of adjacent land uses, there's some sensitive land uses around it, but fairly minor. So for those reasons, we felt it was important to keep these in our official plan to make sure that Penetanguishene continues to offer lands for employment uses. The steering committee did discuss this and agreed with the staff's recommendation to leave it in the plan, and the county is aware that that was our position. And so when and if council decides to endorse these modifications, the county may have to make some decisions on what to do with those lands, seeing that, in their opinion, it's not in conformity with the growth plan. Interestingly, with the change of the provincial governments, we've had some meetings with provincial officials about how to do this MCR and how to look at employment lands, and so there may be some additional guidance documents coming out in the future. And so it is a potential opportunity where the County of Simcoe would identify that one small piece of our official plan as a non-decision and approve the rest of the document, which we're hoping that they will do until potentially the province gives us some more guidance on this. So that's the recommendation from staff and the steering committee, is to leave that land in and await the county decision and approval of our document and what they may or may not do with that in the future.
Thank you very much, Andrea. As Vice Chair, Councillor Louder, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We did have a full discussion with the official plan steering committee, and it was a unanimous decision that we continue on exactly as our director has specified. So, no, it was very well presented.
Very good. Councillor Levy?
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Andrea very much for her hard work on this. We've been at this for 7.5 years. I think I've got that right, Jess. Jessica Clue was our planner when we started the process, and then we had several consultants coming in, and finally Andrea Betty. And it's been a long haul, and there's been a lot of stops and starts caused by provincial policy changes. So it pleases me no end to finally see this coming to fruition, and I'd like to thank Mike Louder, of course, and the planners and planning consultants, and Jeff Lees for taking an active role in the steering committee. So pretty pleased this has finally come through.
Very good, and we thank you for all your hard work on this effort. And I guess it'll be up to Mayor-elect LaRue and myself to bring this forward at the county when it does come up for passage. We'll have to speak very favorably, and hopefully they will agree. All right. If any other comments? Yes, Councillor LaRose.
Thank you. Just one question, Andrea. When you were talking about the rural lands that are existing farm-type related businesses, and they're going to be grandfathered in, right? Do we have an existing list of those properties?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Dubo, to Councillor LaRose. We don't have like a list of them. I know from using air photographs and the history we have with respect to land uses on properties that we could narrow them down and create a list. I would suggest that for the most part, our farming practices are more of a cropland type of nature, not something that's an intensive livestock or animal type of land use. There are, I would suggest, about 4 or 5 potentially that have animals on the property. Most of those are fairly small scale, with the exception of maybe one that might be slightly larger. But for the most part, they're fairly small scale, not the real intensive livestock operations that you may see in the more agricultural regions of the area.
The only reason is that, when we do something like this, and all of a sudden somebody comes back 10 years from now and says, well, we always had animals here. Where's the argument? Where's the, is it up to them to prove it, or is it up to us to prove it? Just if it's an option to get a reasonable list in place as this takes place would be a good idea, I think.
Councillor LaRose, there are no further comments. I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Great, unanimous. Wonderful. Step forward. 8C, moved by Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the temporary extension of resident appointments for the Police Service Board, Transit Committee, and the Trails Committee until December 31st, 2018 be approved. And this is being brought forward because there are meetings scheduled in the month of December for these 3. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Off to number 9, presentation and consideration of reports, Committee of the Whole. I have moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Transportation Environmental Services section be approved. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Finance and Corporate Service section be approved. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor LaRose, that the recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Recreation and Community Service section be approved. No comments or questions? A call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Levy, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Planning and Development Services section be approved. All those in favor? Carried. Move on to 10.8, presentation and
Madam
consider-
Chair,
Oh, yes.
going back to Recreation and Community Services, you indicated, Councillors Saunders and LaRose, I believe that report was signed by myself and Councillor Lauder.
Could be. I did have difficulty. Yes, Councillor LaRue, it was moved by you. It was, but
And seconded by
sometimes.
Councillor Lauder.
Yes, sometimes
Okay.
this scribble is. Well, I think you glossed over it tonight, I'm sorry. Okay, 10A. Moved by Councillor LaRose and seconded by Councillor Saunders, that recommendation contained within the Special Committee of the Whole report related to Finance and Corporate Service section be approved. All those in favor? Carried. Notice of motion, which have been previously given, we have none, and notice of motion, none. Consideration of bylaws. Moved by Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws. Number 2018-77, and that bylaws be read a first time and deemed to be read a second and third time and carried. Questions or concerns? I thought there are two listed on our agenda, but there's only one on this motion.
You have one
Oh, yes,
bylaw
okay.
and then one confirmatory
Yes,
bylaw.
okay. So I did read this. All those in favor? Carried. Question period from the media. We don't have media this evening. Question period from the public. Announcements and inquiries. Councillor LaRue had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to announce the Festival of Lights on Saturday, December 1st, 4:30 to 7 p.m., down at the entrance to the town dock. I saw today and yesterday that our people from CNCC were working diligently and got all the lights in place, so we're set to go. And then following the tree lighting at the town dock, we will move on to the Centennial Museum for activities, Santa Claus, and some refreshments. So that is Saturday, December 1. And there is a little note here that I should point out that there would be no Santa Claus parade this December, but stay tuned for more info about Windorama Parade. So.
Thank you, Councillor LaRue. Councillor Lauder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To our residents of Penetanguishene, I'd like to thank you for 4 years of trust and support. I really appreciate it. To our staff, led by our CAO, Jeff Lees, our directors, and all our staff, I'd like to thank them for their commitment and their direction. To council, I'd like to say that I have really enjoyed my 4 years here, and I think we've made some great advances for the town, and we've done a great job. Thank you. And finally, to our incoming council, I'd like to say congratulations, but also continue, and let's make Penetanguishene the best small town ever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Louder. Yes, Councillor Saunders.
Well, my colleague has certainly stolen 99% of my thunder. And so at the risk of being redundant, I'll just highlight a couple of things that I wanted to say. First of all, thank you to fellow councilors. It's been a treat, and I really mean that. It's been a treat to work with you for the past, in my case, 8 years. And I think we have a first-rate staff, and I applaud all of you for the excellent work that you do. And to Jeff and particularly Stacy, who keeps us on the tracks when the train is going off. I think you, working together, do an absolutely fabulous job. And to our new incoming councilors, I want to make mention of something that was said at the Midland Council, that it is possible to do good work without fighting with each other. It is possible to do good work while disagreeing, and disagreeing in a civil manner. And I would hope that over the next 4 years that the new council will be able to continue to make good progress on behalf of the citizens of Penetanguishene, and also do so in a way in which your relationships are maintained intact.
Thank you to both of you gentlemen. You certainly have added a lot to the 4 years that we've just gone through, and wish you both well in your endeavors. So on behalf of council, thank you very much. And just one more announcement. I was very impressed when I went into our library recently. It is decorated to the nines, so I certainly would suggest that people take a minute and get in there and see the decorations that have gone on. It's really something. And Councillor-elect LaRue, you will soon be sitting in this chair, and this is my last meeting, so certainly very pleased to turn things over to you. Thank you. Thank you. Confirmation of our bylaw number, I did have this in my hand. What did I do with it? Yes. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene, oh no, that's the wrong one. Here it is. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that confirmation bylaw 2018-78 be signed and sealed by the Deputy Mayor and Clerk. All those in favor? Carried. Well, I didn't quite make a short meeting, but half an hour is not bad. Okay, thank you, everyone.